Good afternoon, friends, and thank you very much for coming for this interaction. I have an announcement to make, and following that, I have two of my colleagues here with me. On my right is Joint Secretary Eurasia, Mr. Ajay Swaroop, and on pardon? Oh, sorry, I apologize. Ajay Bisaria, and on my left is Mr. Rajiv Chandar, our ambassador to Ukraine. And they will be responding to all questions related to the announcement that I have to make. With that, let me begin. The announcement is about the visit of the President of Ukraine, Mr. Viktor Yanukovych, to India from 9th to 12th December. We had established diplomatic relations with Ukraine in 1992 January. This makes this year the 20th anniversary of our relations with Ukraine. By way of background, the last major presidential visit from India to Ukraine was by President Kalam in 2005. President Yanukovych will meet the President. He will hold delegation-level talks with the Prime Minister and will also be visiting Agra and Bengaluru. What I will do is I will request Joint Secretary Eurasia, Mr. Ajay Bisaria, I got it right this time, who will speak to you a little bit on the background to the visit and our relationship with Ukraine, following which we will open the floor to questions relating to Ukraine and the presidential visit. And after that, I will take any other questions that you may want to have on any other issue. May I also mention that in accordance with our usual procedure, only one question per person. If that is all right, I'd request Ajay to speak to you all for a few minutes on India-Ukraine relations. Over to you, Ajay.
Thank you, Agman. Well, as JSXP already mentioned, the President of Ukraine, His Excellency Mr. Viktor Yanukovych, is coming to India on a state visit from the 9th to the 12th of December. He'll be accompanied by an official as well as a business delegation. But before we get into the details of the visit, let me just give you a quick background on Ukraine and the state of our bilateral relations. Ukraine geographically is poised between Europe and Russia, and in many ways this geographical location has determined the country's history and its politics. Ukraine has an area of about 603,000 kilometers, making it the largest country in the European continent. It beats France and Spain. Ukraine was also one of the largest in terms of population and most important republics of the former USSR, next only to Russia. It was regarded as the breadbasket of Europe before the Soviet era on account of its huge production of food grain. It has black soil, which is arguably the richest in the world. It was also an important center for heavy engineering and defense-related industries in the USSR. Since its independence in the first 10 years, Ukraine suffered a wrenching transition that saw its economy shrink by as much as 60%. But things have improved in the last decade quite dramatically. In terms of political arrangements, a new constitution was approved by the Ukrainian parliament, the Verkhovna Rada, in 1996 and amended in 2004. There's a unicameral assembly of 450 deputies. National presidential elections were held in 2010 and parliamentary elections in 2012. And the next presidential elections are due in 2015. President Yanukovych was sworn in February 2010, so that gives you a perspective on the political arrangements. In terms of our bilateral relations, we got off to a very quick start after the breakup of the Soviet Union. India recognized the Republic of Ukraine as a sovereign, independent country in December 91. We established diplomatic relations in January 1992, and the visit, as Akbar said, of the President of Ukraine is taking place in the year where we celebrate the 20th anniversary of our establishment of our diplomatic relations. In terms of high-level visits, we've had regular visits at the highest level from Ukraine, regularly every 10 years. So in 1992, we had the visit of President Kravchuk. In 2002, President Kuchma of Ukraine was in India. In 2012, we'll see President Yanukovych. We have returned the compliment at similar intervals. In 1993, President Shankar Dayal Sharma visited Ukraine. In 2005, President Kalam had been to Ukraine. Our cooperation with Ukraine is multifaceted. It covers a range of areas. We have fairly close political collaboration, defense, science and technology, nuclear, space, and of course trade matters come up for discussion. We've signed 21 agreements in covering a whole range of areas, and the last agreement we signed was on exemption of visas for diplomatic passports when the Ukrainian foreign minister, Mr. Grishenko, had come to India in November 2011. The last major interaction we had was the visit of Minister of State for External Affairs, Shri E. Ahmed, who visited Kyiv to chair the 4th session of the Joint Commission, which was held in May-June 2012, just before the Ukrainians hosted the Euro Cup 2012 very successfully, I might add. The Joint Commission reviewed cooperation in the areas in various areas, including, of course, focused on trade, economic and scientific matters. And subsequently, our Commerce Ministry organized an exclusive India trade show in Kyiv in September. And we've had, of course, an exchange of a large number of business delegations. In terms of economic cooperation with Ukraine, we have a very healthy bilateral trade of $2.8 billion. This rose from a figure of just $138 million in 1992, so there's been a substantial increase. India's exports are about $490 million, and these are primarily pharmaceutical products. And from Ukraine, we import a number of commodities, fertilizers, iron and steel, vegetable fats and oils, and so on. India's pharmaceutical exports to Ukraine are the largest by volume and second in terms of value. They were about $325 million in 2011 from Ukraine's point of view. India also imports about 25% of the sunflower oil production of Ukraine, and Ukraine happens to be one of the largest producers of sunflower oil as well. One of the challenges I might mention we face is of increasing the level of business and trade and economic cooperation is of visas for our citizens, which are hard to get from Ukraine. This is an issue we've taken up regularly with the Ukrainian side, and we have proposed, in fact, a visa simplification agreement to take care of this problem. This issue will certainly come up for discussion at various high-level meetings. We are seeing a healthy increase in tourism. Our tourism minister, then Minister Shri Subodh Kant Sahai, was in Ukraine in 2011 for various tourism promotion events. In the nuclear sector, we have a very strong convergence of interest in terms of nuclear safety. India participated in the Kyiv summit on safe and innovative use of nuclear energy, which was held in April 2011 on the 25th anniversary of the horrific Chernobyl tragedy. And we announced a grant of $1 million to Ukraine for various activities that are being held to counter the effects of the tragedy. Incidentally, Ukraine has about 15 nuclear power reactors or power plants of the VVER kind, which India has also now obtained and is going to be commissioned at Kudankulam. And in fact, several Ukrainian persons of Ukrainian origin, technical personnel, have been assisting the project in Kudankulam. Our defense cooperation has been quite healthy. Ukraine is overhauling and modernizing the Indian Air Force's AN-32 fleet. This is based on contracts signed in 2009, worth about $520 million. There was a $400 million contract for what we call life extension of the aircraft, and about $120 million was for engines. So this is a snapshot of the relationship. We have a very strong cultural component of the relationship. We've just instituted a short-term Indian chair at the Institute of International Relations, the Taras Shevchenko National University in Kyiv, for teaching Indian foreign policy. So this is a quick overview of the state of play of our relations. Naturally, we expect this visit to give a significant boost to this relationship. And let me, after that, just give you a quick idea of the events planned around the visit. This is, as we said, a 3-day visit. The President arrives on Sunday evening. Monday is the engagement day, when he will interact with our leadership, mainly the Prime Minister, for detailed talks at Hyderabad House. This will be followed by a business luncheon hosted, as is customary in a state visit, by CII, FICCI and ASSOCHAM. And various dignitaries will call on him in the afternoon, and the President of India would host a banquet in the evening. He leaves the next day for Agra and Bangalore, where in Bangalore he would be hosted by the governor, and also visit Biocon and Infosys. And incidentally, we have a second business event planned in Bangalore, which is quite unique. So this gives an idea of the interest on the Ukrainian side to promote the business relationship. We have 2 large-scale business events with businessmen both in Delhi and in Bangalore. So let me stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ajay. And the floor is now open for questions related to Ukraine, either what Ajay has said or any additional information that you would like to know on the visit. We will circulate to you separately a media advisory which will give you information about the media interactions and opportunities for you to have media interactions with the visiting dignitary. With that, yes, Vishal. Yes, please, hold on.
What exactly is the role of Ukraine in the Kudankulam plant?
Well, as I mentioned, the role is incidental. As you know, Kudankulam is a plant which is Indo-Russian collaboration. It's based on a contract with Russia. But there just happen to be some specialists, nuclear personnel specialized in nuclear issues, who happen to be of Ukrainian origin, who are working at the plant. So that is just a marginal kind of interest of Ukraine.
Ms. Nilova?
Ajay, why is there a problem with visas with the Ukraine? What exactly is the problem there?
Well, this I'll invite Rajiv also to comment on this, but this has traditionally been a problem with Ukraine. We've got numerous complaints from our business community as well as tourists of not finding it easy to get visas to that country. It's internal to them, but this is something which we have been discussing with them at various levels. We've signed a diplomatic visa agreement which facilitates travel of people with diplomatic passports. But the problem we see is that we feel it is acting as a barrier to greater trade and economic engagement. But why exactly? Let me ask Rajiv to step in on that.
Thank you, Sajid. Well, we keep getting requests from Indian businessmen to intercede with the Ukrainian side for facilitating the issue of visas. And frankly speaking, if you are from CIA, FICCI, or any other leading chamber, it shouldn't be a problem getting the visas, but it does take up to several weeks. As a result, you find that you're not able to plan your visits, and this also applies to their participation, that is the participation of Indian businessmen in the trade fairs which are held in Ukraine. So, to be very frank, it is quite mystifying as to why a business person from well-established backgrounds and belonging to leading trade associations are not able to get their visas on a predictable basis. So that is something which we requested the ministry, and this is why the visa simplification agreement is something that has been proposed to the Ukrainian side. And we do hope to see some forward movement in the coming months. Thank you.
What about the ordinary people other than the business?
Yeah, can you just wait for the mic? Yeah.
What is the status for the average tourist or the average citizen other than the business community?
We really wouldn't get to know too much about the average traveler, but yes, whatever little feedback we have, it is indeed a problem for them as well, because if it is for businessmen, quite likely that. So unlike many other parts of Europe where you come across Indian tourists in the major cities, you'll find very few tourists in Ukraine, and even during the Euro 2012, there were a select number of Indians who could be seen, but otherwise not the numbers that you would anticipate in a place like Kyiv, which is pretty beautiful, by the way.
Ranji?
The life expansion contract for AN-32 transport plane is already under execution, and how long it will take to complete the project?
Thank you. Yes, the contract was signed in 2009. These are for 100 aircraft. Part of the aircrafts are to be upgraded in Ukraine, and the majority are to be done in India. So as far as the first lot is concerned, we are more than halfway through. And then the scene will shift to India, where the modernization will take place in India. So it's an ongoing process. Well, we have about 25 aircraft which have been upgraded. The fifth or the sixth lot is in Ukraine. We'll go up to the number 40, after which the balance would be then done in India. Thank you.
Yes, Huma.
Will any agreements be signed with Ukraine? And if yes, in business or
Yes, we, as you know, we don't talk of outcomes. You'll come to know on the 10th of December what we've signed. But we are in the process of negotiating at least 4 or 5 agreements in different spheres. We also hope to issue a joint statement, which is under discussion. And I can mention that the areas in which we are discussing include defense, nuclear issues, as well as science and technology.
Apart from pharma exports, are there any Indian business interests in Ukraine, either by way of operations or sourcing or anything else?
Rajiv.
Well, pharmaceuticals clearly takes the cake. $325 million. We have an Indian Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association based in Kyiv, which has been functioning for the last 10 years. But for the others, well, we've had one Indian company called Kalpataru, which won a bid for power transmission, for construction of these power transmission lines to be established. Now that they won in I think 2010, 2011, about 120 million euro contract. So they're enforcing that. Other than that, not really. And perhaps that's the reason why we are pushing for, visa facilitation, because once you have, Indian businessmen, and by the way, we've had in 2011 FICCI and CIA visiting Ukraine, so it is not the absence of interest that is, resulting in lower exports from India. On the contrary, there is a lot of interest, but just that we're not able to get them to, visit, and that's something which would be important if we were to see Indian exports to be increased to Ukraine. Thank you.
Any other questions on Ukraine? Yes, well, just Sandeep, and then we will come back. Sandeep. Yeah.
The Ukrainians, they tell a number of areas where they're interested in cooperating in defense. Are there some areas which we have identified which could be of interest for us?
As Ajay mentioned in the beginning, that It was one of the most important republics in the former Soviet Union, and that also applies to the defense industry. Nearly 30% of the defense industry was located in Ukraine, and which is why the AN-32 modernization. We also have, for example, our ship engines, or the Indian Navy being regularly sourced from Ukraine. Probably these go back to the last 30-40 years that we've been having this arrangement. We have the MiG-23 also engines being overhauled over there. You have the company called Motor Sich, which supplies a lot of helicopter engines. So the scope is enormous, and I think it's a constant process. We had this deal in 2009. There have been other aspects of our defense industry which are, there have been various visits, and it's an ongoing process. So 2009 was the largest one, and there are some other deals which are being currently considered. But at the moment, I think that's all I can share with you. Thank you.
Yes, Naz, just a minute.
As we know, we have a very deep defense cooperation with Ukraine, and you say you have been constantly talking to them, negotiating with them. So didn't you found any clue to this mystery, why they are not giving visa to our businessmen, tourists?
Good question. I think as far as the defense sector is concerned, I'm quite sure that there's no problem at that end. And it's mostly the travel is in the opposite direction. So as far as visas is concerned, from the Indian side, we've been issuing visas for Ukrainian tourists, and they're coming in larger numbers, from roughly about 9,000 who went in 2009, 2010. Now 20,000 have been coming to India, and the number is growing. So that's something which we'll be talking to the Ukrainians until we get a satisfactory resolution. Thank you.
Yes, Parul, but no, only one question. Parul, last question.
You mentioned that the visits have been very regular, but they don't seem to have been very regular, just a visit in a decade. So why has it been so?
Yeah, I was referring to the frequency. It was regular every 10 years. So so it was 2002 to 1992, 2002, and 2012. Right. But obviously, that's not good enough in a significant relationship. And this is what we hope with this visit. We can make amends and have more frequent interaction. Because as you've heard, there are enough areas of convergence and enough areas of mutual benefit. So I think we'll move to a period of more frequent visits after this.
Thank you very much. We will end this part of it and just give us a couple of minutes, then we come back for the rest. Thank you. No. No.